Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to CripChat, your weekly podcast for everything disability. Today, I have with me Ibby Dee and myself. Also, we've got today Hannah Solo talking about seeing disability in different eyes. Please like and share. And if you got any comments, put in the comment box. And off to you, Ibby.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Welcome to CripChat, your weekly podcast for everything disability. Today with us, welcome back, Hannah Solomon. How you been?
Hi. Oh, so much the worse for not being on the podcast.
No, it's all good. It's always great.
I've missed you all so much.
Us too.
Well, we miss you too.
So, Hannah, tell us, what's the update? Tell us a bit about yourself. What's been happening?
Well, so I do a few different things. Oh, Jonathan's gone again. Okay. I run Disability Pride Sydney. Sydney Epilepsy Jack Rounder Club. So that's my activist hat. And then I'm also a PhD researcher looking at disabilities and the law. And how that, how the law treats people with disabilities. And one of the things I'm doing there is what's called autoethnography, which is where you mix your research with your own experience of being a researcher.
Yeah.
And so I've been realizing just how differently I see the world as a disabled person to how everyone else sees the world. And it's
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, so a lot of the time stuff seems really obvious to me. So like I was explaining before, like sometimes someone will find out about your disability and they will have this immediate reaction that's like terror of like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? You're disabled. And I was trying to explain that in my research, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then I went to a group of disabled people and I went, oh yeah, I had this terror reaction. And they're like, and the whole room just burst out laughing, saying stuff like, oh, that happened to me yesterday. That happened to me last week. I really think a lot of able-bodied people have the impression that things are better than they are. Like, I think that's a big one. So the idea that people would have a terror reaction to your disability is something that able-bodied people think doesn't happen in the 21st century.
Yeah. So that word that you mentioned, what was the word again?
Autoethnography.
Autoethnography. That's an interesting word. It's
yeah, so
something to add to my
ethnography is where
vocabulary.
you watch people and do research on them. So if I was going to do ethnography on like disabled people in Australia, I might come and interview you and I might do some research and watch you do some things. Or I might I might listen to some CripChat podcasts, and that's all about other people. But it gets weirder when you're like in the group. And so some researchers have started writing diaries and things like that. And I think it's really good because I think we're so often just completely erased. And so I think it's good to put our perspectives back in. But it's weird to see the difference between, because I wear these two different hats, and it's weird to see the two different hats. I mean, I started noticing this gap like back in COVID. I remember making something for the Disability Pride Instagram that had like disabled perspectives on COVID and non-disabled perspectives on COVID. And so, like, if someone says, like, so someone says something like, oh, the vaccine, I've never heard of medicine making you sick. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, literally, if I feel sick, the first thing I ask myself is what medicine I've taken. Or, like,
so like medicine, if it makes you, if it can fix you, it can also wreck you.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, what are your thoughts about, like, because I feel like able-bodied people usually assume that the medical profession know everything and always get it right and give you all the best stuff, and you should do whatever they say. And
true.
that's not really my experience.
But it's look, it's good that you say that as well, because in my situation, when I go to a doctor, they do seem a bit patronizing. They do put you down in a way they think they're above you. Look, some mean well, but something they I guess better. And so when they I guess put you down in that way, it does make you wonder, am I built for this world? David, describe a
Yes.
situation when you felt the world wasn't built for you.
Like, for example, if built for me, in which way? Like doctors or
No, like in society,
sometimes? Look, at first when the new phone, when the old phones were out, I had to get a program to use the phone. I got to get a program to use a computer. Now you got to, the computers weren't made for blind people. Now you've got programs for it, and they've got screen readers. They're slowly catching up, but sometimes shops aren't accommodating. They don't know how to treat you. They're scared. They haven't did anything. Like, how are they going to teach you how to, like, how are they going to treat you to serve you?
Exactly.
They think
Yeah,
they think also they think you're fragile. Some people are fragile. Yes.
And that would explain, the medical model as opposed to, the social model. So
yeah.
we're slowly getting to that social model of disability, but we're still stuck at the medical model sometimes.
Or most
So
of the time.
that's not the time, yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we need to move forward. So, Hannah, how do you perceive the world differently from your able-bodied people?
I think, like, I look much more to the outcomes of things, and I'm much more practical, because, like, a lot of able-bodied people will take the government at their word, for example, when they promise something. And I'm like, nah. I'm used to I see the world with a lot more compassion, and I don't sweat the small stuff, because it's just bothers me. It just doesn't bother me. Like, but I think most of all, I see the damages that are happening to disabled people that able-bodied world ignores. Like, another thing I came up with was, like, what I call ritual erasure. which is where like you do something that's like, look how amazing it is that we're nice to disabled people, and then you forget about disabled people. Like, like, oh, why would we have a ramp or something like, and that happens quite a lot. Like, I call it ritual erasure in my research, where you're like, well, we saw it with the Royal Commission. That was a really great example of ritual erasure, because what the government did was they released their response to the recommendations, and it looked like a really great response because it actually said accept in principle. So most of the recommendations were accepted in principle. And if you actually read what that means, it means we think it's a great idea, but we're not going to do it.
No.
So what they did was they deliberately claimed, like the whole Royal Commission in a way was a version of ritual erasure, because they did this big Royal Commission about listening to us and paying attention to us and hearing us and making the world for us and remaking it for us. And then when it came down to anything, suddenly we're forgotten again. Ibby?
Yeah, no, I love your use of new vocabulary. It's interesting, you got auto, what was that word again?
Autoethnography. I think it's a really great way to do research because it's very accessible to disabled researchers. And it's very accessible to disabled researchers. So, anyone can do it. But you have to do it right. And what I've noticed, as I said, is that, like, are there things that you guys have to explain to able-bodied people that, like, you walk into a room of disabled people and everyone knows what you're talking about, but if you're around able-bodied, what happens to you? Like, can you guys think of an example?
David?
Trying to think. Well, I'm thinking when we talk about accessibility. For a building, if it's accessible, they don't. Some people don't know what you're talking about because all they think is ramps, but they don't think about talking elevators or talking or bathrooms that have got an accessible toilet. That's about it, and other things, so people can go up stairs or be accessible for other parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, for me, accommodating for people with disability can be seen as, a burden to some. It can be seen like as a child, which is really not. It's simple. Because if you want to include everyone, you have to make it accessible.
Yeah.
If it's not accessible, it's not inclusive for everyone.
It
kind of makes sense to just make everything accessible so that everyone is a part of it. Not
but
just
it makes sense to us, Ibby. But this is the thing, like disabled people, like
we live disability.
Like another really sad story is I was reading a case about a lady who was really unhappy in institutional care, and so she was self-harming in quite a dramatic way. And so the court's response to that was to put her back in institutional care because she wasn't safe. And see, you're shaking your head now because it's like really obvious to us that it's really bad, right?
Yeah.
But I was trying to explain this to people in my field who aren't disabled, and they're like, well, of course the court had to do that. What were they supposed to do? Like, how can you say that that's a bad thing? You need to explain to us why. I'm like, okay, she's like swallowing razor blades because she's unhappy, and ending up in the hospital, and you want to put her back in that unhappy situation. Like, how is this needing a justification? Like, and most disabled people will actually have a really strong emotional reaction. We don't see why we have to explain these things. Yeah.
Would it be a good idea to have people, a disabled sort of person, on the jury part also, so they can explain?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is like, look, Australia's super behind with disabled people on juries. So we've had quite a few deaf people try to get on juries. And see, I think one of the things that able-bodied people do is they don't accept their own limitations, and they think they're super people. Whereas we've learned that there are things we can and can't do. So everyone's like, oh, you can't have a deaf person on the jury because she can't hear. But there's a famous case, and this really happened, of able-bodied jurors who used a Ouija board to summon up the murder victim to find out who killed them. And that was legal.
Wow.
So I'm like going, like, how can you hold us to this standard of perfection? Like, and you allow able-bodied people to hold a seance.
Wow, that's got a comment. That's wow.
No, really, that's the way it is. Like, and they've done lots of studies that show that able-bodied jurors only remember like something like half of what they hear in a jury room, in a trial and stuff. And but this person can't hear, so clearly they can't be on the jury. And I'm like, well, I would want a deaf person on my jury.
A lot of deaf people can read lips, and they can also read the person, because a person, some people that lie look certain directions, and they do things where they can tell they lie.
Yeah, true.
So I absolutely think disabled people should be on the jury, because yes, like the whole point of having a jury is it's representative of the community. So if you take out 20% of the community, it's not representative of the community, is it? It's not rocket science.
No.
Not at all, no. So Hannah, thank you for that. What are some of the biggest misconceptions able-bodied people have about navigating the world with a disability?
Well, I feel like there's two of them. One is that we can't do anything, and the other one is that we can do everything. So, like, if you have I'll give you a couple of examples, because like, one is I was in a workplace, and because you have an invisible disability, you see this, we can do everything. Oh, you can't do anything, we can do everything, possibly from a different way to someone with a visible disability. But I'm in the office, and this woman goes, do you consider yourself disabled, Hannah? And I'm like, well, yes. And she's like, but you're educated and successful. And I'm like, sorry, what? So that's the misconception that we can't do anything. Then there's the misconception that we can do everything. So I sat down to lunch with somebody, and like, they were a friend of a friend. Like, I wasn't expecting this. And they said to me, I said, oh, I'm doing my PhD in disabilities and the law. And they said, oh, the thing that annoys me most about disabilities and the law is people using their disability to get off. You know, they commit a crime and then, and I'm like, buddy, people are like, I'm just like, do you know how rare that actually is? Like, do you know how many disabled people are in jail when they shouldn't be? And like, but that was his first immediate reaction. And I feel like that's the two things. Either you're not trying hard enough or you shouldn't even bother.
Yeah. Yeah, no, some well said, some very good points. Thank you, Anna. Well, yeah, look, in response to your question, yeah, look, there's a lot of misconceptions, especially when it comes to, me being on a wheelchair. Yeah, it's just that I can't look after myself. I guess it's the biggest misconception. Look, I can. Honestly, I can. If I know that I do have supports that are there. If I need them, I'll reach out to them. But yeah, I can do stuff. I can. I can travel. I can go to work. I can
Yeah.
type on a computer. That's what I do every day for work.
See,
So you
Ibby,
can't assume. Yes, Steve.
when I first was younger, I thought everyone that's in a wheelchair is actually can't walk.
Oh yeah.
But apparently some can, but they've got a
Yeah.
disability where they can't walk for long.
Yeah. See, it's often these misconceptions, that surround our mind that make us, think the way that we do. But once you get yourself out there, you explore, you I guess connect with people, then your misconceptions start to, go away. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that, and I thank you for that. And David as well. Um uh, Building on that, Anna, how does the gap in perception affect the inclusion and participation of people with disabilities in society?
Hold on, my phone is just making a lot of noise. Let me stop it. There we go. Well, as I say, if you're going to assume that someone can't do something, then you're not going to make allowances for them to do it. And if you're going to assume that they can do it easily, you're also not going to make allowances for them to do it. And you're going to become a very judgmental person as well, and a very closed-minded person. But yeah, if you don't know how, if you don't look at the world and go, oh, this person might have difficulty with something, it becomes difficult to include them. So you just either way, if you think disabled people can't do something that we can, then you're not going to include us. And if you think we can do something that we can't, you're not going to include us.
Yeah.
So, if you assume that you can't work, Ibby, then you're not going to give you a job.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you give you a job and then you assume that it's fine for you to climb stairs into the office, you're also going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Can you walk at all, Ibby, or are you always in a wheelchair?
Look, most of the time now I use a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But I can't stand up, so that's as far as I go. I can walk tiny bit, but yeah, if I guess I try to walk for too long, I'll stumble and fall.
No. Yeah,
So,
you don't want to do that.
No.
But do you find that people make assumptions if they, because I think that's a really good example that able-bodied people hold themselves to a different standard. So they assume that if a disabled people can't do something on Monday, they can't do it on Tuesday. And if they can do it on Tuesday, they can do it on Wednesday. And I like say to able-bodied people, are you telling me that you're always at exactly the same level of productivity every single day of your freaking life? No. So why is it that if someone can walk on Monday and then on Tuesday they're not really capable anymore, that you think that they're like something, that there's something wrong with them and they're malingering? Like, you know, have you ever been to the gym? Like, because I can assure you, if you work out on a Monday, you might have difficulty on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea of like not being able to process dynamic disabilities. Like, I think, yeah, people in a wheelchair walking is definitely something that a lot of people who are able-bodied struggle with. But it's because they hold us to a different standard. Like, that's what bothers me, is like, you know, oh, it's okay for able-bodied jurors to use a Ouija board, but a deaf person who uses an interpreter, nah. Or it's okay for an able-bodied person to have trouble walking after they go to the gym, and then we don't say to them, oh gee, you could do like 10Ks on the treadmill yesterday, how come you're having trouble walking today? We go, oh, okay. But if a disabled person uses a wheelchair sometimes and not other times, we're like, what's wrong with you? Yeah.
True. No, thank you. Some very good points that you mentioned there, Anna.
I think this is all up to education and being exposed to disability. If people don't see or learn about it, they're not going to understand it.
For sure. So, yeah, very good point, David. So, Hannah, what steps can individuals and communities take to better understand the world from a disabled perspective?
Well, I think if you're an able-bodied person, one of the things you could think about is like if you're in another minority. So like if you're like of a person of color or female or LGBTQ, you might have some experiences of things not being designed for you, and people not being aware of certain things and making assumptions. And you can like maybe start to think about what that's like for other people and go, okay, well, maybe this happened. So I was dating a gentleman who was African American for a year or so. And I was saying to him, like my dad's first job was in an ADE getting paid $1 a week, which is true. You know, and that's a bit ridiculous, but whatever. Even for inflation, that's dodgy. And he's like, oh, really? That's what happened to African Americans as well. Like, and he suddenly had all this new respect for my dad. So I guess I wonder what it's like for you guys with that kind of, you guys have that double minority. If like it gives you a different perspective, and if you think that can help people.
Yeah. Look, I've never had that experience. Lucky enough, I adapted to paid employment, but before that, it was kind of a challenge because I was volunteering for quite a while. So it was a bit of a struggle. But in the end, I got through, and Yeah, look, we go through these challenges every now and then, but I guess it's all about that connecting with people at the end of the day, forming a relationship, building on their networks, and yeah, look, just spreading the message and enjoying that everyone's included, everyone has a say. It's very important because it does all come down to voice, choice, and control. Like the NDIS always mentions having voice, choice, and control, and that's what it's all about.
Well, maybe Bill Shorten, now that he's resigned, will experience not having voice, choice, and control.
Well,
He might realize how valuable that is now he
well,
doesn't have it.
We'll
he
see.
hasn't resigned fully yet. He's still in power
Yeah, till
until
the end of the term.
until next year.
Yeah,
But I noticed, like, the reporting as well doesn't focus on the fact he's minister for NDIS. It's like focused on, Albanese and his relationship and his political history, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, do you think that the NDIS reforms had? Well, how do you think they related to his resignation?
how?
Well, I mean, he's resigned just after they were passed, so there's something going on there.
Makes you wonder, makes you think.
I mean, we have had some pretty crappy NDIS ministers. Remember, Linda Reynolds, I think it was.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember very
Yeah,
well.
so she was the one that called Brittany Higgins a lying cow for saying she was raped, right? So, like, that's political suicide.
Yeah.
But instead of sacking her, they just made her minister for the NDIS. And I'm like, wow, what does that tell you about how much they value the NDIS? Like,
Yeah.
and as a disabled woman, I felt pretty unsafe knowing that, like, she was the minister of the
running the
NDIS.
show. Yeah.
Like, it's, yeah, I feel like they just, yeah. I mean, I'm glad Bill Shorten is losing his job, but I wonder who we'll get next.
Makes you wonder. Yeah, watch his face, I guess.
We just hope someone good.
Well, I doubt it. Like,
we can only hope.
Jordan Steele John, let's.
There you go. If you're watching John Steele, there you go. Jordan Steele, sorry. Apologies. Thank you for that, Hannah. Hannah, how can we educate for changes that make the world more inclusive for everyone?
Well, that depends on you, what you have as an ability to advocate. Like, some people will find doing research. Some people will organize podcasts like this. Some people will post things on social media. I personally think that what we need most is to actually get people to know what's going on, because the able-bodied world just doesn't know what life is like with a disability. They really have no idea, and if they did, they would want change, but they're just like, don't know. But yeah, I mean, as disabled people, I think, like, we're very good at creatively playing to our strengths. So how you advocate is by finding what you're good at and making your own way in the world. But I think so for me, I am good at research, so I became a researcher. But in terms of actually managing in a normal office, I got fired.
Wow.
Um,
Were they unable to accommodate your needs?
well, yeah, and
Hmm.
look, it was that will take a whole nother podcast, but
Yeah.
it's like the point is like I'm now a researcher, and that works for me. You do a podcast, it works for you. I think um raising awareness among the able-bodied people you know is helpful. Like many of us just get sick of advocating sometimes too. Like I think that was the inspiration for this podcast, was like that feeling of burnout.
Yeah.
And I really related to what Jonathan was saying, because I just get so sick of being a researcher in disability who has a disability, because I'm just like, this is obvious. Stop making me explain obvious stuff. You're all stupid.
Yeah, and you have to keep going, do it again and again
Yeah.
and again.
And stupid questions like, oh, you're autistic. Are you really good at maths? I'm like, yep. You're the first person to ask me that question ever. Wow, that's so original.
It's like you need a QR code on your forehead. Frequently asked questions.
Yeah, yeah, we just get there's your advocacy solution, Ibby. We just all set up a website and carry around little, like, just tattoo ourselves with the QR code for the website.
Frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
Right away. Nah, good stuff. David, do you have anything you want to add? Okay, so Anna, before we end, what are your final thoughts?
I think we as disabled people can't assume there is no assumed knowledge on the part of the able-bodied person. No assumed knowledge. And I think that if you don't assume knowledge, you won't be disappointed.
Yep.
And that's and if they ask you what they want from you, you've just got to say, well, listen to what I have to say. And because no assumed knowledge.
Yep. Thank you for that, Anna. How about you, David? What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are people need education and need to have lived experiences with people with disability. And if they use that with education from school, that would make a world a much easier place to live in.
Yeah, of course. I think, look, I've learned some new vocabulary. So
Autoethnography.
Autoethnography. I have to remember that. And racial deletion.
Maybe we can write them
Ritual.
off.
I don't know if I like that. Like, I made that up as part of my research, but I want to see. I don't know. What about visible deletion? So it's the idea of like doing something really public that makes you look inclusive of disability, and at the same time being really freaking ableist.
Yeah, keep coming up with these awesome words, Anna.
Well, yeah, like ritual erasure. I'm not very happy with. I think. What about I can't think of a better word for it, but yeah.
If you got any words out there, people, let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you very much, Hannah, and thank you, David.
Thank
And it's
you.
always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, I love being on the show.
And we look forward to catching up with you in the future. You're
Yeah.
always welcome to join us on the podcast.
Oh, always that pleasure.
Thank you, Hannah, once again. For everyone out there, you've been watching CripChat, your weekly podcast on everything disability. Enjoy your weekend, and for now, see you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Sorry. Goodbye.
Oh, it's nice to see you both. Yeah.
Sure.